Today we're going to take a look at how I make these beautiful stickers and how I package them and sell them on my Etsy store. I'm going to walk you through some of the work that I do in Affinity. Then we're going to move on to Silhouette Studio so that you can see how I set up the project in Silhouette Studio. And then we'll show the cutting process in the Cameo machine. And finally the assembly of the final product, as you can see here. There's a lot to cover, so let's get started. So here we are at Affinity, my preferred application for design and layout. I am using the latest version. If you used Affinity before, this may look different, or you may be already familiar with it. This is the latest version, which combines all of the three applications that they used to have as separate applications into one application. I'm working on the Pixel tab now. What I want to do first is create a background image that is going to be used inside of the design file that I have to create the carrying sheets for the stickers. This doesn't need to be an exact size of what I'm using over there, or what the size of that other file is, the dimensions of it. So I'm just going to pick this US trade paperback size, and it's 6 inches by 9 inches, which is fine. And I'm going to create document. Perfect. So I bought a sticker set from Etsy with a whole bunch of designs related to superheroes. Here come the superheroes themselves. Really cute. They're all painted in watercolor, and I want to turn them into stickers. But the first thing that I want to do is take a whole bunch of these superheroes and drag them in here into the document. And then I am going to, let me zoom out a little bit. Command minus, and I'm going to just randomly move them around, and you'll see where I'm going with this in a second. This lady's back here. I don't know that they need to be this big, so let me real quick resize all of these guys in one shot. There we go. That's a little bit better. Let's go back to regular state. I'll put them in different locations, and this is going to become like a backdrop for the carrier sheet. There doesn't need to be a lot of detail visible. Like I said, this is just to cover the background and give it like a graphic effect. There we go. Let's move this other guy around. I don't even know. Oh, that's Thor. Yeah, I do know who that is. This must be Lucky. There. Let me twist him this way instead. Make him slightly bigger. And then we have Hulk back here. Hulk could probably be in that location and a little bit bigger like that. I want to have all of the spots covered by color or something. So eventually, we're not going to know who these guys are or where they are in the design. Back here, the point is to fill the space with superhero bits. Okay, so I think this solves or satisfies my need. You'll see how this is going to come into play in a little bit. So the first thing I'm going to do now is then export this. I'm going to export it as a PNG so that it retains all of this crispness of the lines and all of that. You could use any format you want. I prefer to do PNGs for anything I'm going to use as a background that is going to then get effects and filters applied to it elsewhere, just so that it survives it a little bit better. I'm going to click on export, and this is going to go into my desktop. I'm going to create a new folder here called Hero Stickers. Okay, that goes in there. I didn't give it a title, but that's fine. Now we can close this document. So now I can go and open the actual file that I'm going to change. And what I did with here is if you click on the A in Affinity, you get this window allows you to open recent files, etc. So this is the file that I want. It is a file I created for another set of stickers. So we're going to modify this. The first thing I'm going to do is save it as a new file. Sticker design heroes. And this is going to go into the hero stickers folder that we just created on the desktop. Now what I will do is I'm going to now pick a color that I'm going to use as the theme color for this sticker set. I think green color would probably be cool to use because of the style of the stickers themselves that I will be using. They have a lot of greens and it's like sort of like pastel greens and neon greens and things like that. So let's start by modifying the header items. So I'm going to click on this and I'm going to look for maybe something around there. It's still dark enough to allow for the white type and the white elements to come through. So now the title looks good here. We're going to change this in a bit as well to match the color scheme. The QR code also looks great. Let's edit this text while we're at it. So it's not solar bodies, it's superhero stickers. Okay, let's zoom out real quick. Zoom a little bit back in. And let's work on this circle color. Now I'm gonna bring this back over here. That is a good color. Maybe a tad darker. I think that looks pretty good. And now we have the correct branding for this file. Now the file that I created earlier, I am going to now drop here on title PNG. And you see now what this is going to turn into. I'm going to discard the previous file that was there. And what is happening here is that we have the header items and then we have the background image that I'm going to use. Before I go any further, I'm going to resize this a little bit so that more of it is actually seen within the design. And then maybe move it up a little bit like that. There. You can see a little bit of the faces of everyone. That's good. So that's this layer here, which is now going to be called hero image. And then this is a recolor layer adjustment that you can create in Affinity. You can add it by clicking one of these buttons down here. So now we're going to move this over to where we start to look a little bit more similar to what we have in terms of color scheme. I want this to be very, very, I don't want it to be as saturated, so a little bit less saturated, but I want it to be very, very light because the stickers are going to be placed on top of this. And when the machine cuts them, if you get a little bit of the color from behind, you know, sometimes the cutting is not really exact on the white border that I have on them. But if there's a little bit of this behind that comes along for the right on that cut, it doesn't look too bad. So somewhere around there. This doesn't need to be discernible in any way. It's just a decoration on the background to give it a little bit of interest. So now this is done. I'm going to save this and we're going to export this image as a PNG as well. And it's going to go in the same folder that I have on my desktop with all of the other assets that we have created. That takes care of everything that we wanted to do here in Affinity. So now we're going to move on to Silhouette Studio to begin laying out the stickers. Here we are on Silhouette Studio. This is the latest version of Silhouette Studio because the machine that I have is Cameo 5A Plus. which is one of their newer machines, and they only work with the latest version of Silhouette Studio. So if anything looks different from what you're used to, that's the reason why. I am also on a Mac running the latest Mac OS from Apple, which I think is Tahoe 26, and this application is not optimized for M chips yet, so you will see some lagging in some of the things that I'm trying to do. That's just part of the situation that we're dealing with this version of the app. And my understanding is, from what support told me, is that they're working on making this a little bit better and providing support for it in the future. I don't know how soon that's going to be. I hope that is soon enough. I believe that Mac computers running Intel chips behave a little better with this software. It's not great, but it is better. All right. Okay, so let's get started. So this file is a layout that I did for another set of stickers. So I'm going to reuse it because a lot of the settings that I'm going to need are already in this file. We're going to get rid of these planets and these because we don't need them really. There. And what we're going to insert is the new assets that we created in the previous section. So let's get into the hero stickers and let's bring in that background image that I created. I realized after filming that superhero is one word, so I fixed that. That's the only difference between what you saw there and this. We're going to change the size of it to 4.25, just a little bit smaller because that's the size that I use with mine. I'm gonna now use this function to rotate this with the shift key so that I can get a straight rotation there. And I'm gonna bring this guy down here, and I'm going to duplicate it by holding the Alt key and dragging down. So there it is. There's that, and there's this 4.25. Okay. Same here, 4.25. There we go. That's more like it. I'm going to select them both, and I am going to align them on the center. And I'm going to put them right in the middle of the page. If it's going to let me. It's not letting me do it, but let's just do it by eye then. Here we go. Okay, perfect. So what we're going to do now is start laying out all of the stickers inside this file. What I will do first is actually do one of them, and then I'll show you how to set it up entirely with one sticker. Then I'm going to do the rest of them off screen, and we're going to cut to the point where we actually lay out all of the stickers once they're all completed, and set up the two sheets that are going to be printed. So I'm going to go to File, Merge, which is how you import into Silhouette Studio, and we're going to go into the set that I downloaded, and let's grab somebody well known. Let's get this little guy. It's kind of cute. I think he's from the Guardians of the Galaxy, or inspired by the Guardians of the Galaxy. Let me select that and let me give it a 3 inches high. And it disappears. So I have to now zoom out to find him. There it is, right here. Let's bring them over here. Zoom back up, go back to full screen. Now I normally actually give everything 1.5 height to start with. And I'm going to zoom back in so that we can see a little bit more of this process so it's clearer. There we go. So one thing I'm going to alert you about is that I'm going to show you how to create the offline, which essentially is the white border around the sticker, which I like to have around my stickers. Not everybody likes to do that, but I do. And when you do that, what you actually want silhouette to cut is the outer white border, not this image. So every time you bring something into Silhouette Studio, it's going to get an outline color assigned to it to identify it as cut. And as a matter of fact, these rectangles back here are also set to cut. So if I click on send now, even though I don't have my machine on, we have this little guy set up to be a cut item. The two on the background are not set to cut because I haven't set them up, but this one is automatically assumed to be a cut file. I don't want that. So let's get this guy. We're gonna give this background images the color of blue, and I will tell you the reason why in a bit. This is going to be set to nothing, which is this icon here, nothing. So now that I have him selected and I've already told Silhouette that this is not going to be cut, I can do the offset. And the offset that I'm going to choose is 0.125 to cut around this little guy. Let's hit apply. And then when you do the offset, it automatically becomes selected. So while I have it selected, I'm going to give it a solid color of white. Good. Now this offset item is supposed to be cutting. So now that I have that, I can actually group it with this, with the image that I'm going to use as a sticker. I'm going to give this a final height of 1.7, which is usually the size that I give all my stickers on the longer side. And now if we go to send, you will see perfectly that these lines, these background images are going to be die cut, and the actual sticker guy, which is the guy with the offset white background behind it, is set to be a kiss cut. And what is going to actually be cut is the outer outline of the white offset, as you see here. So that is perfect. That's exactly what I want. Now I'm going to go ahead and import all of the other superhero images, and I'm going to do exactly the same process with each one of them. And then I'm going to show you from that point on how I lay them out on the page and how I print this. We're going to see the print coming out of the Epson printer as well. And then we're going to move on to the Silhouette machine, where I'm going to show you the design being cut. I also want to mention that this doesn't look, if you look at this background here, it doesn't look like an actual print and cut page, because I am not using a mat. That's what it doesn't look like. It doesn't look like a mat. What it actually is showing me is a rendition of the electrostatic mat that I'm going to be using instead to cut this. Silhouette has released an electrostatic mat, and I'm sure you're probably familiar with it. If you're not, is essentially what it sounds like is a little piece of machinery that has a flat bed, and when you turn it on, it uses electrostatic to stick the paper to the bed of the machine so that it is immovable. So then you can cut it flat without actually having to use a sticky mat, which is amazing. Once you turn it off after everything has been cut, the paper can just be separated from the bed without any issue, fully straight, without any curvatures, which saves a lot of time. It's an excellent tool. So you'll get a chance to see how that works. Okay, so now I have gone through the process of selecting all of the heroes that I want to include in this product, and here they are. So I have already given them their outlines, their offsets, and all of that. So it's time now to start laying them out. So it's going to be, there's going to be 6 characters per page. So let's just spread them out real quick. Okay. That's good enough. So now what I want to do is lock the layer that has the two background images. It's just going to make things easier for me to move around. Now I can select these guys, and I need to rotate them, right? Because that's going to be the orientation of the file. Same thing with these guys. Gonna rotate them, and now I'm gonna start putting them around, moving them around, and see what works best based on their shapes. So Batman can move a little bit up. I think we can rotate this guy a little bit like that. Batman can also be rotated, perhaps like that. Now they fit a little bit better. The Hulk is looking pretty good there. Yeah. Now these guys don't look as maybe we swap Hulk and Catwoman, and then we give her a little bit of a and perhaps Batman can be that way. Perfect. And here's a Joker. Move them around. I want to give them all a little bit of a twist so that they look more active and fun once they're laid out. There's that. And now we got, okay, so Hulk is a bit of a problem anywhere we put him, so we're gonna have to be creative here and perhaps move him up and then move Iron Man down here. There we go. It doesn't look as haphazard. I think that's pretty good. Now let's do the same with these guys. These are not as complicated because they're, I think Hulk is throwing everything off because he's so wide. And now let's move Wonder Woman there. This guy looks good there. Let's give Captain America a little bit of a, oh, this can be, need to be a little bit closer. And there. I think that's pretty good. Maybe these guys can come down a little bit so that there's a little bit of uniformity with the layout over here. This guy's a little bit higher, this a little bit lower. And I think that's pretty good. So move him around a little bit so that there's enough space for things to cut freely. This guy can move here. I think Hulk can move a little bit there. This is good, good. Batman is way too close to Spider-Man. I think this is the correct layout. Now what I normally do is I grab these guys and I group them. And then I grab these guys and I group them. Just so that everything is tight, and if I move something by mistake, I can just move everything back in place the way that I had it. Now the next step is to send this to the printer. So let's go ahead and do that. Okay, so before we print, I want to double check that the settings that Silhouette is planning to apply are correct. So I'm going to click on send real quick here. And what we want to confirm is that these guys have the red border outside where the offset is, which they do. These guys don't seem to have the blue border, so I must have turned that off at one point. So I'm going to go back and I'm going to unlock that layer and select these two guys and give it the color of blue. Now we're going to go back to send and take a look. So the way that this reads is that we're looking at the line view of Silhouette Studio. What this is telling me is that the reds, don't ignore the other red. I don't know why there's another red there, but the reds are going to be kiss cut, which is what we want, sticker paper, and the blue lines are going to be die cut. What that means is that die cut is going to cut all the way through the sticker paper, so it cuts completely through, so that when I remove the sticker paper from the cutting bed, what's left behind is this rectangular piece and this one with the stickers on it. The actual stickers are going to be kiss cut, which means that the blade is going to cut through just enough to cut through the surface of the sticker paper, but not the backing, so that you can just peel them off from the sheet once this is all printed and ready. I think we are good to go, and let's now go back to design and print this. So this is the printer that I use. This is an Epson ET-8550. It's an EcoTank printer. It has worked really well for me and I'm very happy with it. I also want to show you the paper that I use, which is this one. This is a paper that I found on Amazon. I did see quite a few videos on YouTube with this paper being used, and it got really good reviews. I've used it a few times. I like the quality of the print. It's glossy but not too glossy. Even though it says premium glossy, I don't find it too shiny, so it works really well for me. The EcoTank is amazing. The inks take forever to run out, so that's very, very good. They're basically supposed to last about 100 years. These stickers are essentially water resistant, which means you can splash some water on them, but this paper isn't really designed to be underwater or for long periods of time or anything like that. If you are going to do anything like that, you probably should be laminating your stickers, just so that they're a little bit more protected. Other than that, that's all you need to know about my printer. I will show you later the way that I print the actual stickers once I'm ready to do so, and you'll see the printer in action. My printer is ready to go. I'm going to confirm here that this is yes, what I want to print. Click on print, and I'm going to pick my Epson. And I'm going to choose a preset that I had set up, which actually gives the colors a little bit of more vividness with Epson printer. This is going to look different for everybody. Depending on your printer, what you see here is completely different from mine. But the gist of it is that I am picking photo paper glossy color. I am telling it that the feeder on the rear is going to be supplying the paper, and the color settings are Epson Vivid, and I'm printing in high quality. Other than that, I think I did not change anything else in these settings, because those were the actual settings that matter. This is now going to be sent to my printer. I'll show you a little bit of that process. So this is the screen that I land on at the very end when I am about to send the job to the Silhouette machine, which I will do in a minute. And then I'll show you the whole process of cutting using the electrostatic mat. We'll see you on the other side. Okay, so here you see the Silhouette machine is ready to go. I have already loaded the sticker paper onto the electrostatic mat. You can see that it is turned on. All I have to do now is press on this button here to load it. There you go. Now you can see that it is lined up. The paper is in place. This paper is now stuck to the electrostatic mat, so it's not moving anywhere. Okay, so now that the cutting has finished, I'm gonna stretch this out, take it all the way out, and I'm going to turn off the electrostatic mat so that the paper becomes loose again and I can remove it. So you will see here now that when I remove the paper, this stays together as one piece, same as here, and then each of the stickers can now be peeled off on their own like that, which is really cool. Again, there you go. So now this is ready for me to turn into a product that I will sell on my website. I hope that you enjoyed watching my process. Not everyone will do these the same way, but I think this is actually a pretty simple way of making stickers. If you're not drawing them yourself, that's a different story, and probably something that should be devoted to a different video. There are plenty of videos out there of people that actually paint and draw their own stickers and do this entire process in a slightly different way. I hope to see you in the next video. Thank you so much.